Hello, I'm Anita Corbin, and I'm the photographer that has created 100 First Women portraits. When I was approaching my 50th birthday, I felt an urge, a compelling need to create a legacy that I would be remembered for. And I kept hearing about First Women on the radio and in the news, and I kept thinking, how are we going to remember these amazing pioneers? And the whole concept really was to celebrate 100 years of women winning the right to vote. So I gave myself 10 years. So in 2008 I started the concept, and in 2018, when we had a 100-year celebration of winning the right to vote, I produced this series of portraits to celebrate the impact that women have had on the world. I never imagined that I would be showing the exhibition in Ram. When we first moved to the West Country, we had small children, they were 3.5, I had twins, and we used to come here a lot to the museum. So it feels very complete. There's a feeling of completion about coming back and showing my work here. We have about 16 West Country women in the show, which is incredible. I think there is definitely a pioneering spirit down here. Beth French, who's an endurance swimmer, who's the first woman to swim, and first person actually, from Cornwall to the Isles of Scilly. And I really wanted to capture this feeling of physicality, the power of the female body, the kind of conditions that she puts herself through takes a lot of guts and a lot of strength and a lot of muscle power as well, and complete determination and belief in yourself. And Beth French is going to be talking to you later on Lates. Bellatrix, who was born in Exeter, she's the first woman to be a world champion beatboxer, and imagine how male-dominated that world is. And she's, one of the younger women in the show, and absolutely such a talented musician. And as you can see, all of the portraits are different because we're all different. That's one of the things that I really love about being a photographer is, it's always a challenge. You never quite know where you're going to end up, how you're going to take the shots, who you're going to meet, and the connection with the person and the human in the shot is, I love it. I love the fact that, I have to be able to talk and make people feel relaxed and find common ground with all of these women. And in fact, I asked for 2 hours with each of them, 2 hours sitting, so that we did have time to get to know each other, and I had then the time to draw them out and to give them the opportunity to create a portrait that they'd be happy with, going to the National Portrait Gallery and being there forever. And their descendants being able to say, that's my great-great-aunt, or that's my great-great-grandma in 100 years' time. It was about that sort of longevity that I projected that feeling into them. All of the women felt, when I asked them, 98% said yes. It was difficult to get through to some of them because of them being really busy and high profile. But once I'd got through to them, 98% said yes straight away, which was such a boost for me. And having these pictures hung so tightly together, it creates this collaboration of women. It's about working together. And, we need more of that in this world. And by hanging them so tightly together, it's not just about individuals with, their skills. It's actually about bringing us all together and being the best we can all be together and holding each other up and supporting each other. And it's not about I'm the best at this or I'm the first at this. It's about being the best that you can be and being the best that you can be in whatever you want to be. And this is just an opportunity to see 100 occupations here that women are now doing. And with the oldest subject, she's from Plymouth. Actually, there's 2 here from Plymouth. We have Angela Rippon, who is a legend in media and TV. And she's from Plymouth. And we have Edith Kent, who was 101 in this photograph. She's the first woman to receive equal pay. She was a welder in the Plymouth docks in the war. In 1943, she was recognised as being as good as the men, and her boss gave her a man's wage. I didn't know until last week, when her daughter came, who's in her late 70s, Jean. She came and she said, Mum didn't know about being the first until she was 100. So she actually had lived her whole life not realising that she was such a trailblazer. So it's about unsung heroines. It's about, celebrities that we see on the telly, It's actually about ordinary women doing extraordinary things. We've got sportswomen, we've got women in the armed forces, we've got scientists, we've got women musicians, we've got another scientist there, we've got a MI5, the director of MI5, we've got a darts player, we have a welder, we have a chief constable, first woman chief constable in the police force, we have the first woman to be the keeper of the RA, the first woman to be principal of St Andrews University, and the first woman to receive 3 Michelin stars. So just in that wall of 15 there, you can see the huge range of subjects. Because there is this strength in hanging different ages, different races, different subjects, different looks next to each other. It makes people think a bit more. If I'd put all the scientists on one wall and all the sportswomen on another wall, you'd get people just coming to see their particular topic that they were interested in. And I don't want people to do that. I want people to take the whole lot in, to see this huge opportunity. Over here is another West Country woman, Dame Hilary Mantell. So this is the most close-up portrait in the show, and I was quite nervous about visiting her because she's such a well-known writer, and I was convinced she was going to ask me all these questions about the characters in her book and quiz me about if I'd read it. And but luckily enough, I got there, and I always work on my own. I never take assistants. I like to have that intimate connection with the woman, so it's just me and her. So in this case, it was just me and Hilary. And when I arrived in her flat, with all my gear, and I was struggling out of the lift, I got all my gear and sort of dumped it in her hall, and she just came over and gave me a huge hug. And of course, at that point, I just felt totally relaxed. And we had a great session, and this was towards the end of the session, actually. She's an incredibly striking woman. Okay, Nicola Adams probably took me the longest, but eventually, when I got my sitting with her, and I really did have to pinch myself and think, wow, this has taken years to get to this point, to be standing in front of her with the camera in the GB gym. And she was obviously, she was training hard that time because it was in the lead up to the Olympics. And so I got her sitting in the area where I felt was most expressive. I didn't want to photograph her fighting. I really didn't want to photograph her in a standard boxer's pose, actually. I wanted to show a bit more vulnerability, a bit more of her personality. And she's now obviously dancing on Strictly, and the first woman to be dancing in the same-sex partnership. So that's, fantastic. What a brilliant woman she is. Moving on to this one here. This is Abby Ling, and she's one of our GB clay pigeon shoot champions. She's the first woman to set a British record title in women's Olympic clay trap, shooting a 100% perfect score. The reason why I photographed her was because she used to be my Zumba teacher. And one day after the class, she went off with her GB tracksuit top on, and I sort of ran after her and said, how come you've got a GB tracksuit? So having an inquisitive mind and being curious is really good when you're a photographer, because you never know who you're going to meet in your Zumba class. Again, it's the power of the group. And we all felt, I think, coming together when we did the shoot, is that it's not about us, it's actually about the group and having the opportunity to be stronger together. And that's, again, really powerful in this room, because I've never had the opportunity of showing all of the pictures in one room and giving that impact, where actually you're not really even looking at the captions, you're just absorbing this, huge, inspirational group of women. My first was Sarah Ootin, and when I started in 2008, I didn't want to start off with a list, that I could tick off as I went through it. I wanted to have the opportunity of including firsts that were going to happen, contemporary firsts that were going to happen in the 10-year period of the shooting. And so the first woman that I photographed was basically because of a random Google search. So I searched first woman, or first women in the Google, and Sarah Ootin came up, and she was at the point doing her first, which was to row solo across the Indian Ocean. And she was in her early 20s when she was doing that. And I thought, wow, if she can do that, then I surely can do this. And again, reinforcing this message to women is that, you know, be who you are, don't worry about stereotype, be subversive, be nonconformist, you know, be different, be an oddball, be yourself. So yeah, really all of these women are completely, well, we are all unique, but you know, they've been able to have total belief in themselves, and you need it. So moving on here, we have another big group of 15. Again, choosing these, how they went together, has been, you know, quite an eye-opener for me as well, because I've never had to lay them out in this way before. So it's like a three-dimensional game, not a two-dimensional game. So I've chosen to have in the middle of this series a very powerful graphic shot, a wide-angle shot of Colonel Lucy Giles, who's from Somerset. And she's in the middle in Sandhurst. She's the first woman commander of Sandhurst. And then we have Charlotte Budd, who's the first woman to ride in the Grand National. And she rode in the Grand National in 1977. And she didn't finish the race, but what a significant moment, 1977, for women. And then we have here Jill Ryder, who was the first woman to be made a partner of Accenture, which is a big consultancy company. And she is now the chair of South West Water. So she's a very, you know, very powerful businesswoman. And she lives in Ashburton, so she's Devon. So there we are, lots of locals. So I must just show you Betty Boothroyd. She is the most amazing woman. She was in her 80s here. So we went into the Royal Gallery, and you're not really supposed to take photographs in there, but obviously with Baroness Betty, I got away with most things. And yeah, she said, I don't break the law, I make the law. So she was very charismatic and wonderful. And we meet up occasionally, and she's been my mentor right through the project. And I was very cheeky really when I asked her if she would be my patron, because we were having coffee after this shot out on the terrace, and there was Big Ben in the background, and I sort of got down on my knees and I was like, oh, can I just take another shot of you, please? And I got down on my knees, and as I was down on my knees, I proposed to her and I asked her, would she be my patron? And she didn't bat an eyelid. She was very gracious and obviously agreed to do it, and she's just been a wonderful figurehead to have as part of the project. One of the sort of surprising things for me and delightful things for me in a very sad way is that several of the first women have passed away since I photographed them. And when I have launches and exhibitions, I'm really happy to see that their family come and kind of pay tribute to their relatives or mothers or daughters or aunties. And a lot of the families say to me, you know, it's wonderful because you've recognised the talent in our children, especially in occupations that might not be terribly high profile, like software writing. And so, you know, having this sort of almost like a eulogy aspect to the portraits is a really great spin-off, if you like. And as I say, several of them are in the National Portrait Gallery now, and they will be there beyond all our lives. So, you know, that was a bit of a dream for me to have pictures there in the National Portrait Gallery.